Welcome to the Child Care Director's Chair, the podcast for bold educators who are ready to lead, grow, and shake things up in early childhood education. Whether you are a teacher eyeing that lead role, a lead stepping into leadership, or a center owner dreaming big, this is your space to grow with purpose and leave your mark. Hosted by heart-centered leadership coach Erica Sacoccio, each episode brings you real talk, actionable tools, and a contagious laugh or two, all designed to help you step into your next level with confidence. So pour your coffee, pop in those earbuds, and take your seat, because your leadership journey starts right now in the Child Care Director's Chair.
Great leaders don't just launch great ideas, they create impact. And today I'm sitting down with Dr. I would say it wrong,
Keena
Rush Mosley, leadership coach, author, and powerhouse behind the Launch to Impact philosophy. If you're ready to elevate your leadership and build your team culture that truly lasts, this conversation is your next step. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much for having me.
So tell me a little bit about what inspired your journey into leadership coaching and writing a book.
So I started a whole lot of years ago as an afternoon preschool aide and kind of worked my way up through the ranks, so to speak, in leadership in early ed, right? And I have done a number of different things. I have done private programs. I've done state funded, federally funded. I've done school districts. I've worked for the County Office of Education as a Head Start monitor. I've worked at the university level, and I currently teach early childhood at the college level. In all of that work, there has been a consistent thread. There are people that are very much willing. There are people that are very much leading from the heart or even serving from the heart that get put into these leadership positions. And even though they have the best intentions, just because you're great with working with kids doesn't mean that you know how to lead adults or even know how to lead a program. And so for me, this really is a passion project in terms of helping that next group, that next generation of leaders really feel like they have some support and they have tools available to them so that even if they are not getting what they feel like they need from other places, that they are able to go to a website, to a podcast, to a book, and be able to get the things that they need to help move forward on their journey.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about the framework or the behind your book from Launch to Impact. Talk a little bit about
Launch
that.
to Impact, it really is a 6-step framework. And really, if we put together my 2 books, I have 12 steps, but one book at a time. Launch to Impact is essential foundations for optimizing your influence and accelerating your success as a developing leader. And what we do there is we really focus on this idea that no matter what level you're on, there is a foundation that you need to continue to revisit every time you elevate. And so for me, I have 6 principles. 1 is to learn from everything. And then there is to make sure that you have accountability, to make sure that you are understanding culture, to make sure that you are navigating the middle, because there's nothing like being a supervisor or a leader and not being the final authority and feeling like you are in that middle place being stretched in both directions. So navigating the middle is really, really challenging for a lot of people. Making sure that you're collaborating and then finally making sure that you know how to handle the hard stuff. And for me, the hard stuff is conflict management, having the difficult conversations, being able to address issues when they occur, or even just supervision.
Yeah. I was kind of joking about this the other day because I've been in all those positions like you. And there was a time I wasn't a childcare owner, and I was talking about this the other day in the podcast, and the song Stuck in the Middle with You just kept popping in my head.
It is so true.
It is, right? And I'm like, gosh, and I think when you're an owner and you've been in that middle position, I think you can really appreciate the dynamics too that come with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So where do you see leaders getting stuck at that launch stage, and maybe how can they push through to real impact?
So I think when it comes to our beginning leaders, they are in this place oftentimes where either they have gotten promoted in a place where they were with their peers and now having to make that separation. That can be a very challenging thing, particularly if your peers didn't view you as a leader prior to the promotion. It's a lot easier when your peers kind of saw you as a leader amongst them. But once you step out into that official leadership capacity, things do and should change. And so that often is a sticky place. The other place I see for directors is being able to balance accountability with relationship. And a lot of times, what I see is leaders don't know how to adjust their approach, and they think that being compassionate, being understanding, being a leader with heart means that you don't hold people accountable. But I believe that you can do both.
I believe that you're right.
And not only can you, you should.
Absolutely. 100%. That is very true. And I think, being fair and consistent so people know what to expect from you. But you have different relationships with different people, but it doesn't mean that you change your standards or you bend the rules for some and not others, right?
The standard is always the standard.
The standard is the standard, right? But the way that, like you said, you approach it might look a little different. What would you say? You teach leaders how to communicate with intention. Talk a little bit more about that, because I do think that sometimes people have a hard time with those tough conversations. And, how do they intentionally communicate with their team?
So I think the first thing that every leader has to do is they have to be in touch with themselves and have real self-awareness so that when they get in those tough situations, that they are able to be resolute, that they are able to be clear in what their intended outcomes are, and to know either how to deviate from those outcomes when necessary or to not deviate and hold the standard or hold whatever the intended outcome or the desired outcome needs to be for any particular situation. But many times what happens is, and, I understand we're tired. Many leaders are burnt out, pulled in a lot of different directions, but all of those things are really the perfect storm to lead from a place of emotionalism. And so long ago, I picked up this philosophy, and I can't even remember where I got it from. It's never make a lasting or important decision when you're hurt, angry, lonely, or tired. And so that is something that I continue to share with leaders. That's not just a life lesson, that's a leadership lesson and vice versa. And oftentimes, because of the weight that we carry and the responsibility that we carry, and then for people that own their own centers, right? It is much more than a job and a calling. It is literally your lifeblood. And so you take it at a more personal level than the average person would. And when your staff or your team members or even parents are not kind of responding in a way that's in the best interest of the program or pulling in the direction you need them to pull, it is so easy and so tempting to respond out of emotion. But we've got to be able to, I don't want to say take the high road, but it really sometimes it is taking the high road. But you've got to be able to temper your emotion so that you can stay present in the moment and get done what you need to get done and communicate with intention and clarity. And oftentimes when the emotions take over and enter, it no longer becomes about the issue, and it is all about the emotion. How you talk to somebody, how you looked at somebody, what you didn't say, body language, all of those things. So when you are able to be even keeled and get your message out clearly and hear what the other person is saying, and adjust your approach as necessary, it is far more effective than yelling and screaming.
You said a lot there, and I think sometimes, and particularly in this field, women typically are emotionally driven, right? And we're emotionally charged. And so I think with this field being so densely populated by women, you can really get into a sticky situation if you're letting your emotions get the best of you or you're running your center from a place of emotion. So, obviously stay connected with people, but yeah, you got to be careful when your emotions are high for sure.
But you know what? This is going to sound so simple, but also very difficult. As leaders and particularly as women leaders, we have to do a better job of just eating and taking breaks.
Yeah.
You know, we are running around the center. We're running around for the children at the center. We're running around for our own family members. And then we're like, why is my head hurting? Why am I feeling weak and tired and dizzy? Well, when's the last time you ate? Or did you have a full night's sleep? Did you have a good night's sleep when you actually rested, right? Like, what is going on in your world that is pulling you away from the basic necessities of self-care? I'm not talking about the fancy stuff, the spa, the nails. I'm just talking about sleep and appropriate meals consistently. And women are so good at neglecting themselves. And all of that shows up in a disagreement.
You know, I sometimes when I present, I make a joke and I tell the directors, I said, no more animal crackers for lunch. And, I'm like, that's, girl, you know. You're like, oh,
it's the truth.
You're like looking at, what do they got for snacks in here? Like, that's,
right.
that's what we're eating at 4 o'clock.
So you're like, give me a couple of these goldfish.
Yeah.
No. We have to do better.
Yeah, we definitely do. So let's talk a little bit about accountability. Accountability, you had said earlier, is really important. One of the steps in your framework there. How do leaders hold people accountable without burning themselves out, without feeling like the bad guy?
Yeah, so I think what we need to do is we have to embed accountability in our day-to-day practices, right? What are the systems that you have in place for yourself and for others to make sure you're doing all the things that are necessary? Making sure you have your checklist and your sign-in sheets, your sign-out sheets, and you have redundant systems where, maybe one person is signing people in and the next person at some point during the day is just really quickly going over to make sure it's done. How do you help people to verify their own work and performance before it even gets to you? And then once it gets to you, it needs to do so in kind of a repeatable, consistent routine. You've got to have a process in place that staff already know. So I remember working with a client recently, and I literally found myself in this tug of war because they did not want to let staff know what they were using to monitor and observe them with. And I was like, but you want to know when somebody's coming to observe you. Why is it this gotcha kind of a thing? The only way that staff can really perform at the level that you need them to perform is that they are clear on what your expectations are. So you have to start with a strong onboarding process. And onboarding doesn't happen in 1 or 2 days. Onboarding is a process that lasts a couple of days, a couple of weeks, and it is rolled out because none of us as adults can take in everything that we need to do and master it in one sitting. That's just not the reality of adult learning. And so we have to have a strong onboarding process. We have to make sure that we're communicating to people what the expectations are. And so that might be a memo, that might be a checklist, that might be a procedure, that might be a policy, a handbook. There's so many different ways to do it. But I always talk to leaders and I say, listen, you need to make sure that you have things in writing for people so that they can go back and look at it when you're not there. And if you have a procedure, if you have a handbook, it needs to be so crystal clear that when you are not around, they know exactly what to do. And then you just let people know what your check-in process is going to be so that they can be prepared for that and understand that in addition to this check-in process, that is scheduled and routine, there could be some surprises along the way. But the surprise isn't going to be about something you don't already know about. The surprise is just making sure that our systems are operating.
Yes.
And when they're not operating the way that they should, then we're taking that opportunity to create teachable moments.
Yeah. Systems definitely are very important. So as we wrap up, you said so many wonderful things here. First of all, for my friends who are listening, I know you want more. I know you want to hear more. Tell folks where they can hear your podcast, get your books. Give them that little bit of info.
So if you look me up under Dr. Keena, DrKeena, on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, the internet, and anywhere you can find podcasts, so Apple, Spotify, I am there. And yeah, you can also go to my website, launchtoimpact.org, and I will have all the links to all the different things there. But yeah, everywhere you need to go, Dr. Keena, it is.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Child Care Director's Chair, where we believe leaders aren't born, they're grown. If something sparked for you today, share it, shout it out, or pass it along to the next bold changemaker in childcare. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected with Erica Sakosio for more real talk leadership tools and a whole lot of inspiration. Until next time, lead with heart, grow with fire, and always remember, the chair is yours. Now own it.